Without further ado, Megan B is going to come up and she's going to perform some of her original songs, and she's going to talk a little bit about what storytelling looks like for her and the impact that she's able to make with it through music. But she is a really impressive and awesome local person that we have that hosts workshops and does everything that she can to get other people telling stories, whether it's through music or writing or whatever form that people prefer. And it's just really neat to see all the communities that she's been able to work with, and I'm really grateful and honored that she's here with us tonight. So without further ado, here's Megan B.
Thank you so much. She is fickle, she is fumbling, she is finding her way through the puzzles, through the crosswords, through the thoughts in her brain. She always writes in pencil, never permanent ink. She is fickle, she is fumbling, she doesn't know what to think. She is careful, she is cautious, she is catching her breath. All the ropes and the tangles and the knots in her head. Studies all the turns, never rushes around. She is careful, she is cautious, she doesn't get too tied down. And I love to watch her move, and I never know where she's going to. She is playful, she is patient, she is placing her bets on the hand that's been dealt, on the cards in the deck. She laughs at her chances, and she makes her bets small. She is playful, she is patient, she knows she can't win them all. And I love to watch her move, and I never know where she's going to. She is fickle, she is fumbling, she is finding her way through the puzzles, through the crosswords, through the thoughts in her brain. She always writes in pencil, never permanent ink. She is fickle, she is fumbling, she doesn't know what to think. She is fickle, she is fumbling, she doesn't know what to think. Thank you so much. What an honor to be here in a day amongst so many other poets and storytellers and musicians and songwriters and writers. Aren't we lucky to have such a rich region full of creativity? I'm really honored to get to close out the night tonight. I was asked to come share some of my songs and also speak to how I use the storytelling process through song, how I use songs to tell stories. And there's so much overlap, there's so much possibility between songs and stories. And so many of the basic elements of storytelling and writing stories are the same elements we use in song. And so things like characters We use characters in songs, and you can probably think of some songs that are really just about one character or about a person or an animal or a couple characters and how they interact. And characters can really come to life in songs. It's one element of storytelling we use. Another element of storytelling we use in song is point of view. And whether it's first, second, or third person point of view can make a really big difference on how the song comes across. We use plot in songs. Some songs are story songs. They tell a story, they have a beginning, middle, and end. They have a past, present, future aspect to them. Some songs have this arc of a story and then a resolution. And we have this tool with music too. There's resolution within the chord progression, within the music. And when you run a scale, if you stop in the middle of the scale or at the very end before you come back to the note that you began with, it feels unresolved. And so if you're writing a song that is not resolved, you can use music, you can use a dissonant chord to kind of help your song feel unresolved. Or if you wanted to feel resolved and wrapped up, you could come back to the main chord and leave everybody very resolved. So we use plot, we use conflict and resolution. And we use setting. And what a great setting we live in Appalachia in Southeast Ohio. A setting so rich that inspires so many people and becomes this backdrop of our songs and our stories. It's this place that runs through all of us. It ties us all together through this region. And I get really inspired by it, living in this place and using this setting as a prompt. Because setting and place can be a lot of things. It could be a teacher. A place could be a place of comfort and solace that we go to. A place could be a point of conflict. A place could be dynamic and changing. There could be a flood that brings the conflict in your place. The place could be conflicted because maybe somebody leaves home. They leave the place and then they change. And while they're gone, home changes. And when they come back, they have to reconcile those differences and those changes. So that can be a point of conflict in songs and stories. The place is a living, dynamic part of our songs and our stories. And it changes through the seasons. How lucky are we to live in a place with 4 distinct seasons? And that change ebbs and flows and helps us remember that things are going to change all the time. Nothing is static. Even if you're going through a hard time, eventually it's going to change one way or the other. And I get inspired by the seasons. There's a little bit of seasonal element in this one. But it's also inspired by my sister. I live here in Athens County. She lives in Oakland, California, which is way too far away for a sister to be living, in my opinion. But we get together every once in a while, and actually, she just came last week. She came to visit. She hadn't been here in 4 years, but she came to visit last weekend. And you all know, when you have family or friends that are far, far away, it's really hard. But when you do get together, man, that time is so precious. And so it's about family, but it's also a song inspired by springtime here in Southeast Ohio, which is this precious time. Sometimes it can feel like it goes right from freezing cold winter to sweltering hot, humid summer. Gotta grab hold of those nice spring days when we get them. This one's just called Sister. Hunting morels, harvesting ramps, me and my sister out at the camp. The first week of May, come and we stay for a while. Spying on birds up in the trees, listening for warbles as the little birds sing. A flash of yellow through the green, and we smile. And she only comes once a year, but it's the very best time of year. waterfalls, and my sister are here. Catching a tadpole, kissing a frog, searching for life under a log. The world is alive and nothing can hide from us now. Counting the flowers we tiptoe around, the colors and patterns that cover the ground. The world is exploding, exposing her beauty somehow. And she only comes once a year, but it's the very best time of year. When the warblers, the wildflowers, and the waterfalls, and my sister are here. Winter's gray, we'll talk on the phone thousands of miles away, and it's a comfort to me, but I long for the day when the warblers, the wildflowers, and the waterfalls, the warblers, the wildflowers, and the waterfalls, the warblers, the wildflowers, and the waterfalls, my sister are here. My sister is here. Thank you. Well, I was asked to come share important, authentic Appalachian stories and how I use songwriting to do that. And I was reflecting on those words, important, authentic Appalachian stories, and I started thinking about Appalachian more, and I was pondering a little bit about where we come from. And I've lived down in this region for 22 years, the majority of my life. But I wasn't born here, and I started, when I was thinking about sharing authentic stories, I was confronted with this feeling, a slight feeling of, what do they call it, imposter syndrome. Like, oh no, I'm gonna get up there and they're gonna find out I wasn't born here. Because I had this experience this summer where I was touring. I did a big tour across country. I played in about 13 different states, 30 shows in 50 days. And it was fun, and I always, when I'm on stage, I'm proud of where I'm from, so I say, I'm Megan B. I'm from Athens, Ohio. It's Southeast Ohio. And somebody in the audience in a show in Colorado, they said, oh, me too. And so after the show, I was chatting with this person, and they were like, okay, where did you grow up? What school did you go to? I said, well, I wasn't born in Athens. I've just lived there the last 22 years. And they said, and you still say you're from there? I was like, oh man, am I not from, like, I don't feel like I'm from where I'm from. I grew up in Northwest Ohio, kind of between Toledo and Sandusky, very flat industrial farmland, close to Lake Erie, and great time, but I feel very home here, and so it's interesting to be confronted with the where are you from question, because where are you from can mean different things to different people. And the more I've kind of chewed on it and thought about it, I thought about my art and my music and what I create, and really that is definitely from here. I couldn't make things I make if I didn't live here, if I didn't become inspired by this region. Growing up in flat farmlands in Northwest Ohio, I had pretty minimal exposure to live music. I played in the marching band, that was good, and I went to one concert as a kid, one, and it was in a big place. It was in the Toledo Sports Arena, It was a country concert my brother really wanted to go to, so my family finally, they caved and they splurged and they took us to this giant country concert in the Toledo Sports Arena. It was big and loud and there was lights and it was a big to-do. And then we had a lot of karaoke nights around the area. And that was pretty much it for me. And I had always, since I was really little, made up songs in my head, which I had figured everybody must do, and nobody shares them because I never heard anybody sharing songs that they made up. So I kept it to myself. And when I moved down to Southeast Ohio, I found this whole other level of music and creativity happening in all these spaces that were woven in to everyday life. And so I found people playing music on their porches. I found people playing music around campfires, passing the guitar around and sharing songs. This was back when Rattletrap String Band used to play old-time music at Casa Nueva on Monday nights. All this stuff was happening, and I found all these outdoor festivals and stages where you could find one person with a guitar standing up in front of people, singing a song that they wrote. And I'd never been exposed to that before. I think being in this region and having this place and space to be showcasing local, original music and art and poems doesn't happen everywhere. And I was so lucky that I landed here into this kind of community that really had a space for those kind of things. And I was thinking about the whole, coming to a place. And I'm thinking about the whole region of Appalachia. It's full of people who have come here. Of course, we had the Shawnee and the Native Americans who lived here. And then on top of that, more European settlers and the African American influence. And immigrants from all over came to this region and settled. And so traditional Appalachian songs have been changing and evolving all of the time. And so when folks came over, settlers migrated here, they brought the stories and the songs from their homeland. But once you move to Appalachia, they evolve and they change. And they evolve because of the instruments you have access to. When those first settlers were coming from Europe countries, they weren't bringing their big piano with them, but they brought the songs and stories, and they still sang them, but instead they had banjos and guitars and fiddles. And then the African American influence of the banjo into the region, it just shaped everybody. So they were affected by the people around them, the people that they met and lived near. All that fed into this sound of Appalachia that's still growing and evolving, because time is a piece of the evolution of music too. People sing a song, and then their kids might sing it, but they might use newer, different instruments. Language changes over time, and that evolves music and songs. And then we hear things from our past that inspires us in a new way, and we continue to write. So it's all just keeps going on forever. The traditional Appalachian, true, important, authentic stories keep evolving and changing. And in that tradition of bringing a story from your homeland and then sharing it in a new space, this is one that was inspired by where I grew up. Very flat, Northwest Ohio, up by Lake Erie, and so there's Toledo, and then near me is where the islands are. Put in Bay, Kelly's Island is up there, Cedar Point is nearby, and the lake is there. I was just about 10 miles from the lake where I was born, and in the summertime, it's a big party. There's boats out on the lake. People are partying on the islands. People are going and riding roller coasters at Cedar Point. And then in the winter, it gets very quiet and very frozen and snowy. So I was thinking about the folks I've met who live out on the islands up there. and how their life is really affected by the seasons. When the beach is asleep under a blanket of snow, long after the summer, when all the tourists go home, I kneel down by the water, pray my soul to keep. That's when I start dreaming, when the beach is asleep. Well, July was all sunshine, swimsuits and tanned skin, selling cold beer and souvenirs. Yeah, the money rolled in. September was a hurricane. It all washed up in a heap. Now I go through the rubble, now that the beach is asleep. And the roads are all closed and the ferry route is frozen. Charlie's little bar is the only place open, and we sit around the wood stove, us few left behind, eating boiled clams and oysters, passing bottles of wine, when the beach is asleep under a blanket of snow. I close my shop for the winter. It's all quiet in my home. Now tuck into the silence, breathe a sigh of relief. That's when I start dreaming, now that the beach is asleep. That's when I start dreaming, that the beach is asleep. Thank you. Something I have found living here is so many creative folks. We're just so rich with creativity in this area, and the willingness of people to share and collaborate and connect over their art has been a real gift. And in 2001, I started a group called Words in the Hills. There's some Words alumni here, and there were earlier in the day too, there were some Words people sharing stuff. And I had been going to a songwriting camp in Colorado, just down on the east side of the Rocky Mountains, called Rocky Mountain Song School. I'd been going there for 5 years, and it was great. It was a camp out, and we studied songwriting, and I loved that concept of camping out with all your buddies and studying. And they brought in teachers, and then at night we'd all share our songs and hang out. And I thought, man, I wish this was closer to home. And I started thinking about it more and looking for it more. And then the pandemic happened and everything shut down. But I was feeling a little lonely for writer connections. So I started a little group in my backyard. Just 4 of us songwriters would meet in my backyard once a week. And we would get together, we were all songwriters, but we'd get together and do little prompts and share songs we were working on. But then we kind of spiraled off into other genres of writing. So we would do things like take a song we had written and then turn it into a short story. And we were doing all these writing prompts where we were just kind of free writing. And we found it really freeing and really helpful in our songwriting to dabble in other genres. So then that feeling of wanting something close to home and wanting to connect with other writers, and knowing that being in a group of writers inspired me more as a writer to have a community, then it spurred me on to start Words in the Hills, which is a writer retreat and workshop. And we welcome writers from all genres. I like the aspect of mixing in genres. So we've had everything from songwriters to poets, to screenplay writers, to novelists, to people who've just casually written in their journal but never shared their writing before. People who are published authors to people who've never shared before, all mixing in together in a camp space, which is my happy space. I started, before I was fully in music, I worked at camps and worked with kids in camps. And so using that as a setting, it's been really fun. And then creating that and then knowing it was something I was looking for and I wanted, it was really validating when other people showed up and then they said, I've been looking for something like this. And I think if you're just starting a creative endeavor, it's so helpful and nourishing to find some peers, to find some people who are also being creative and want to connect. It bolsters everybody's creativity when you come together like that. And I think like today and that event, and there's so much else going on in this region, but I think there's just room for so many more groups like that, so many more events like that, that support nourishing and cheering each other on and maybe challenging each other a little bit. I like that aspect of getting together with a group. I'm currently doing a online group called Music Every Week that I've done a few times, but it's people from all over the world. I don't run it, I'm just a part of it. But people from all over the world are on this group, and they go 10 to 14 weeks in a series, and you have to submit a song every week online. And if you don't submit a song, you're kicked out of the group. I like that kind of stuff. I like a little accountability. I like a little consequence and deadline when I'm being creative. I think it helps me just really sit down and do the work. And then it's fun. Then I get to hear the playlist of people from all over the world submitting their songs. This week, it's due at midnight, and it was 10 o'clock, and I thought, I'm going to bed. I'm just going to drop out. And I thought, no, just do it. You know, like, it really pushes me. And I sat down and did it, and then I worked on it for like an hour and a half. I had so much fun working on it. So I love that stuff. This is a song, this came out of a group. I used to hang out with a local group, and we would do a prompt where you had a word or a phrase or an idea, and then you had 1 hour to write a song. Usually by the end of that hour, I had written something I never wanted to share ever again. And that's okay. Nobody is taking it too seriously. There's no pressure. And I think that's the beauty of it. When there's no pressure, then you're really free to create whatever you want. And so sometimes these fun things would come out that I might not write in another space. Sometimes somebody would get a cool line or a rhyme or an idea that they could hold on to. Every once in a while, somebody would get just a full song would fall out of them in that hour. And that was really magical when that happened. And this song came from one of those 1 hour prompts. The prompt was to write a name song. Lots of great name songs out in the world. Jolene, Melissa, Bobby McGee. I'm sure you can think of more. But apologies in advance if your name is Andy, because I'm about to say your name several times. Andy, you're as tall as the sunflowers, steady as a summer sun, quiet as a mouse. Andy, I remember back in second grade, all the other boys were pulling my braids. You were staring at the birds. Andy, I've been watching you growing up. I've been growing up too. Andy, with your books and your paper, sitting up in an oak tree, looking out at the world. Andy, you were down in the creek bed, found yourself an arrowhead. Would you give it to a girl? Andy, I've been watching you growing up. I've been growing up too. Andy, guess I never really noticed you quite the way that I noticed you last Saturday night. You were standing all alone by the window. Everybody else was dancing. You were staring at the moon. Andy, I want to see what you're seeing. Wish you were looking at me, yeah, the way you stare at the trees. Andy, I've been watching you growing up. Have you been watching me growing up? Hey, pay attention to me, Andy. Thank you. This song kind of started as a prompt also. I was hanging out at my friend's house, and her neighbor's a songwriter, and we were talking about process in the craft of songwriting. And I was telling him about how I like a deadline and how I like a little prompt. And he had never really written that way, so I said, okay, let's do one. I'm here for 3 more days. Before I leave, we gotta share a song. And so we came up with the prompt to write about an animal that you've never written about before. And as I'm digesting this prompt over my couple days there is this mockingbird hanging out in the tree in the yard where I am. Any bird watchers, any self-identified bird watchers, birders out there? All right, my people, my person. It's okay. It's okay if you were too embarrassed to admit it. Well, so you might not know, but mockingbirds, I mean, it's true. Mockingbirds are a real bird. They're not just in poetry and fun songs. They are a real bird, and they do mock. They're in the mimic family. So they have this ability to listen to all the bird songs around them. And then they learn those songs. And that's their song. They just sing other bird songs. That's their song. And so I was sitting there listening to this bird, and it was like a real boisterous male right before mating season. He's trying to set up his territory, and he is just singing on and on. Even when I'm going to bed at night, he is still out there singing all these bird songs. And I was thinking, man, it's like a medley of greatest hits of bird songs just on repeats. So I was thinking about that bird, and then I was like, well, of course, he's just asking for it. I need to write a song about this bird. And in the process of that, also started thinking more personally about how easy it can be sometimes to just repeat things that I've heard without fully thinking them through. Mockingbird, singing everybody's song at the break of day. Mockingbird, with the voice of the robin and the blue jay. Where did you learn to sing? Where did you learn to sing all those songs? Do you ever just want to sing one of your own? Mockingbird, singing everybody's words every time you talk. Mockingbird, with the words of the red and the red-tailed hawk. Where did you learn to sing? Where did you learn to sing all those songs? Do you ever just want to sing one of your own? Mockingbird, singing everybody else's melody. Mockingbird, with a song of the crow and the chickadee. Where did you learn to sing? Where did you learn to sing all those songs? Do you ever just want to sing one of your own? I think I can hear your voice in there, but it's hard to know. Do you ever just want to sing one of your own? Do you ever just want to sing one of your own? Thank you. I love all the cross collaboration that's happened at this festival, and if you didn't make into Stewart's today, maybe if you're going tomorrow, you'll see. But there's this art exhibit on the wall in the lobby, this reverse ekphrasis. Am I saying that word right? Ekphrasis? One of those regional dialect things. You can say it however you want it. Which ekphrasis is a new word. As a new word, I learned once I saw it. I was like, what is that? And it's describing an object or a piece of art with very intricate words. So this is reverse. So the festival took pieces of writing and then asked visual artists to make a piece of art representative of that writing. And two of my songs are in there. It's so cool to see a visual of songs. Fickle and When the Beach is Asleep got submitted in there. So it's so cool. There's two of my songs, and there's some and Pancake Things, and some other writers had response art up there too. And this song, they put up the festival put up the songs or the poems, and then people kind of get to pick and choose. And this is one that got put up that nobody got accepted for, but it made me think about it. I don't play this song out very much, but since they put it up there, I was thinking about it, and but what a great song for a storytelling festival, because there's definitely a story in this song. coffee in styrofoam cups. We got the morning news, got the windows rolled up. My hands on the wheel and the box in your lap. And we're headed back home again. We had a check with the cops, had to clear your parole. Your gas station job didn't want you to go. But we're free for the weekend in 300 miles. And we're headed back home again. Well, you stare out the window when I look at you. Your green speckled eyes and your prison tattoo. Well, I haven't seen you since 2010. But we're headed back home again. We don't have to put it back together, we don't have to make it all fit. Let's just find peace with the pieces that we're left with. That old county line in my new Cadillac. My hands on the wheel and the box in your lap. And in the box there's the dust and the ash and the bone of the man who once brought us into this world, of the hands that brought up this boy and girl. And in our own way, aren't we all headed home, headed back home again, back home again. Thank you. If you didn't catch all of that story, it's a story about two folks who are driving, who haven't seen each other in a while, and one's been in and out of prison, and the drive is kind of quiet and awkward, and they have a box. And as the story evolves, you realize there are two siblings, and in the box is their dad's ashes that they're taking back home. And when my dad heard that song for the first time, he said, "That's not me in that box, is it?" I said, "No, Dad, and I do not drive a Cadillac." And I think that's a fun part of songwriting is you can write fictional stories and songs and sing from a different character's perspective. And I think oftentimes as songwriters, we're singing, it feels very intimate, we're singing in first person, and people can often assume, wow, you went through that, or that was your story. But the same as an author, a novelist who's writing in first person, that's their character speaking. And I like mixing that up. But even though a story may be fictional, there's always some truth in there, and sometimes they become even more true as time goes on, and then I feel more connected to those characters and those things. But at that time, I had been thinking about death, because when I wrote that, my grandma had recently passed, and my grandma has 6 grandkids, so I'm in a cohort of 6 cousins. We're all very close in age on my mom's side. On my dad's side, I'm the youngest of 48 first cousins. That's a whole other story. But on my mom's side, there's just 6 of us, so we grew up really close, did all the holidays and the birthdays together. And then when we grew up, we all went very different directions, and some of my cousins, they weren't really on speaking terms, or we didn't see each other that much. But My grandma died Christmas night. What a way to go. On Christmas night. And so we'd had all Christmas together. It was a really rare year. I don't know that all of us cousins had ever been home for the same Christmas after we grew up. But that year we were all there. And my grandma passed that night. And then the next morning, my mom found her and called us all up. And then it was just these 6 people from very different backgrounds were all in this room together, and all of our differences and conflicts just stripped, and all of a sudden we were just 6 grandkids who loved their grandma. And so I had been thinking a lot about how death can bring people together in really unexpected and beautiful ways. But it might be a little too hard for me in that moment, in that year, to write about my grandma, because it's so raw. It's so fresh when you just lose someone, when you just have a big experience. And Natalie Goldberg is a writer. She writes about writing, and she writes about this concept of composting. And so something big and raw happens, grief or being in love, or something big is happening, and I think as writers we want to write about it, but when you're in the midst of it, you don't have any perspective on it, so it's going to be just this raw stuff. It's like compost, and if you compost at home, you know that stuff's got to sit for a while. And maybe you go out every once in a while and you turn it over, and then you let it sit. You turn it over again and you let it sit. And if you can let that stuff sit for long enough, she says, eventually you can turn that raw stuff into some fertile soil to work with. But it takes time to turn it over and sit with it. So those big hard things, I think a fun way to kind of sidestep that weight is to just take the emotion and the feelings from what you're experiencing and then write it through a different story. So instead of writing about my grandma, I wrote about these 2 kids and their dad. And the emotion was there, the feelings were there. But if I'd have wrote about my grandma also, I would have felt like, I gotta stay very true to the story. And when they say, like, don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. So it's fun to mix in the fictional with the truth. And I mentioned the reverse ectasis and the art. I love looking at art and then writing from my experience. This one came out of a time over at the Dairy Barn during the quilt show, the Quilt National. Anybody make it to Quilt National this summer? Nice. Okay. Good job. If you didn't make it, it only happens every 2 years. So now you gotta wait 2 more years. Don't miss it in 2 years. Mark your calendar. Because it's really amazing. And there's quilts from all over the world. And I was in there looking at the quilts and thinking about just the intricacies of fabric art. And pondering the intimacy of making somebody a blanket. And wondering, what does it feel like when somebody hand makes you a blanket? And wondering, what does it feel like to be that blanket? Cerulean, indigo, cobalt blue. How can colors make me feel so much? You made me this quilt, the fabric, the patchwork. Now when I'm in bed, I still feel your touch. I want to curl up in the blankets with you. To the deepest blue. Your nimble fingers, I'm blankets with you, and dive into the deepest blue. Chevron stitches, scalloped edges, you sold me up like a piece of art. Squares of sapphire, oceans of denim, embroidered your name on the back of my heart. I want to curl up in the blankets with you. Deepest Thank you. This is another one. I talked about seasons and the landscape changing, being an inspiration for songs and stories. And this is one that came out of that very late winter when you're kind of over it. And I was coming out of a long, cold winter, and metaphorically and literally, sometimes those go hand in hand. It's easy to get down when it's so dark outside. But I think it's good to keep your eyes open just enough to look for some signs of hope. And there's little things that can kind of creep in that late winter that kind of inspire me to hang on and know that things are going to get better, things are going to change. And one thing I love about the seasonal change of winter to spring is watching the mating display of the woodcock. Has anyone ever witnessed the mating display of the woodcock? It's a bird, don't be concerned. Oh my gosh. This is one of my favorite things, and it's so goofy and beautiful and strange. And in that dreary, nasty, late winter, late February, early March, when it's like, is it spring, is it winter, these birds are out there doing some wild stuff. So if you go out to a very tall, grassy area, right around sunset, and you listen, you may hear the woodcock. It's a medium-sized bird with a long bill, and it sits out there in the tall grass, and it says, "Meep, meep." I love this goofy bird. It's so wonderful. And so then if you hear that noise and you get a little closer, you can kind of sit and wait, because you probably won't be able to see it. It'll be in the tall grass. But if you get close enough, wait and kind of watch where you're hearing that coming from. And eventually, if you're lucky, it will fly up in the air in this big mating display. And as it flies, it makes this sound with its wings. It's like, woo! And it flies in these big spiraling circle till it's way up in the air. And then it just does these huge circles over the field. And eventually, it will stop doing the big circles and then just fall back down like a leaf and land back in the grassy field and go, meh, meh. It delights me so, so much to hear this bird. It's like this sign of like, okay, if they're out here doing this thing, then spring is definitely coming. Something is changing. And so I was out there watching woodcocks a lot. I love that time of year. And I've always wanted to put a woodcock in a song. but like the word woodcock is not that lyrical. It's hard to get in there, but so the second verse of this song has a little reference to the night bird, and y'all will know what bird I'm talking about. This one's called Sweeter Things. They're boiling sap in the sugar shack. Boiling sap in the sugar shack. I can smell it in the air, I can hear the sound. Spring is pushing up from the ground. I once was blind, now I see there's room in my life for sweeter things. That night bird sings when the sun goes down. The night bird sings when the sun goes down, singing out his love in the grass so tall. Flying so high and then he falls. I once was blind, now I see there's room in my life for sweeter things. 'Cause I've been cold, I've been lonely, I've been hiding away in the dark. I've been hardly myself these days. Now they're boiling sap in the sugar shack. Boiling sap in the sugar shack. I can smell it in the air, feel it rising in my bones. I'm waking up and I'm not alone. I once was blind, now I see there's room in my life for sweeter things. Once was bound, but now I'm free. There's room in my life for sweeter things. Thank you. So you may notice lots of birds and trees and things in my songs. I get so much inspiration from being outside and watching the natural world. It's kind of in my background too. I lived in Nelsonville for a while and attended Hocking College right here. Any fellow Hocking College grads or students? Anyone over here? I like to tell people when I'm traveling, I tell people my degree is in ecotourism and adventure travels. That's what my diploma says. Which translated really well into being a touring musician, I think. And I used that degree to do environmental education and work at camps. And a fellow camp counselor over here, and I worked out at Camp Odeokwa in the Hocking Hills, if you've ever been out there. Really great camp, and we would work with kids in the summer, all summer, and then in the spring and the fall, we would work with school groups and get regional schools out of the classroom and out into the woods where they could study ecology and geology and forestry, and learn about it out where they could really see it and feel it, instead of just trying to sit in a classroom and read about it in a textbook. And that's, I mentioned the Words in the Hills retreat earlier, and that's, we have it out there, and I think it's fun to hang out with adults out at camp, because any age can get a lot of benefits of hanging outdoors. This one's inspired by hanging out with kids in the woods. What you gonna do, little birdie? What you gonna do all day? What you gonna do, little birdie? What you gonna do all day? Are you gonna pick some berries and crack some nuts, swallow some seeds and dig a worm up, build you a nest of sticks and leaves, sing a sweet song in the morning breeze? What you gonna do, little birdie? What you gonna do all day? Are you gonna fly away? Are you gonna fly away? Oh, what you gonna do, little oak tree? Oh, what you gonna do all day? What you gonna do, little oak tree? What you gonna do all day? Are you gonna drink some water and stand up tall? Change your color when it turns fall? Stretch your branches way up high, dance in the breeze as it blows by. Oh, what you gonna do, little oak tree? What you gonna do all day? Are you gonna grow so tall? Are you gonna grow so tall? What you gonna do, little rock? You guys can do that with me, a little audience participation. When I say little rock, you can knock on your table or clap your hands 3 times. What you gonna do, little rock? What you gonna do all day? What you gonna do, little rock? What you gonna do all day? Are you gonna hold somebody's memory? Skip across the waves, headed out to the sea. Be the firm foundation of somebody's house. Lay in the ground so the plants can sprout. What you gonna do, little rock? What you gonna do all day? Are you gonna lie so still? Are you gonna lie so still? Well, what you gonna do, little children? What you gonna do all day? What you gonna do, little children? What you gonna do all day? Are you gonna pick some berries and crack some nuts, swallow some seeds and dig a worm up, build you a nest of sticks and leaves, sing a sweet song in the morning breeze, and drink some water and stand up tall? Change your color when it turns fall, stretch your branches way up high, dance in the breeze as it blows by, and hold somebody's memory. Skip across the waves, headed out to the sea. Be the firm foundation of somebody's house. Lay in the ground so the plants can sprout. What you gonna do, little children? What you gonna do all day? Are you gonna fly away? Are you gonna grow so tall? Are you gonna lie so still? Well, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Well, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do, little birdie? What you gonna do all day? Thank you. I should mention I did bring some merch. I have a new album out. It's actually out next week, but I have it with me here. It'll be up on all the streaming sites, but the CD and the vinyl are here. It's the first time I've ever pressed vinyl before. Very fun. It's my 5th album. And I've got t-shirts and stickers and things like that, and an email list if you want to stay in touch and know about what's going on and where I'm playing and what's blooming in my neck of the woods, I just send out a little monthly blurb. Or you can follow me on the socials, Megan B Music. I like to say B is like a bumblebee, and Megan is like Megan. No extra A's or H's or anything weird in there. Well, you notice I've told you I was an environmental educator. I do a lot of outdoor stuff, and I'm way more of an outdoor dog than an indoor dog. And I was at a conference in Chicago once, in a hotel convention center, one of those 4-day things where all the workshops and expos and your room is all in this hotel, and you never see the light of day. And after a few days of that inside a hotel, I'm just like pacing around the carpet and chewing on the furniture, and it's just not pretty. And as I was driving back to my home here in rural Ohio, I was feeling very thankful. I started writing this tune. It's called A Soft Place to Land. Concrete and iron, bridges and barbed wire, the city, the sirens, the show, rough edges and asphalt, it's hard to stand. I'm looking for a soft place to land. I'm looking for a soft place to land. Jokes in the boardroom, words in the restroom, gossip heard over the wall, deadlines and drama, another demand. I'm looking for a soft place to land. I'm looking for a soft place to land. Life is hard, and I know it's not easy to live with me when I'm going down. A blanket, a promise, a warm, steady hand. You're always my soft place to land. You're always my soft place to land. Ooh. Thank you. Well, thank you so much to the organizers for having me, Kaylee, and everybody on the team for putting this amazing event together. It's been a really full day of lots of songs and poems and stories. I got to hear the Story Slam earlier. So good. I love it so much. It really is such an honor to be here. Can we give it up for the organizers and for everybody who performed today? It's so good. So I was asked to share important, authentic Appalachian stories, and so many storytellers sharing stories. And all the way in the past, this whole region is so full of songs and stories from back to the Native Americans and the Shawnee and their stories and songs, and all the settlers and all of the immigrants who came from any place and have found inspiration from this place in this land. All the stories and the songs and the play, the Bigfoot play. There's so many great, wonderful things on the schedule today. Those are all important. Appalachian stories. And as time goes on and the next generations are saying new slang words that I won't understand, and when they have access to new different instruments and they're singing their truth and they're telling their own stories, those will still be authentic, important Appalachian stories. And if you find yourself some time to go out into these hills and sit and listen and be amongst the sandstone cliffs and gorges and the biodiversity of the eastern deciduous hardwood forest, and if you find yourself a nice place to sit and listen, you will hear this bigger, very old story that this place and this land is telling and will continue to tell, this old story of life here that weaves us all together and ties us all to each other. This is my last song. Thank you so much for hanging out on the square tonight. It's such a pleasure to be here. I'm trying to be quiet. I'm trying to listen. Trying to figure out what I've been missing. I listen for the thunder. I listen for the night bird. I listen for a melody. I listen for the right words. Take me down, take me in, turn me around, bring me home again. I've been waiting to see if I'll ever return to what I used to be. 'Cause I was a wild one, the colors of a moth wing. I was a summer sun, I was heat lightning, and I was a cold rain, I was a morning flower, I was a summer night, I was a meteor shower. Take me down, take me in, turn me around, bring me home again. I've been waiting to see if I'll ever return to what I used to be. Now I'm sweeping out the cupboards, trapping all the mice, shaking out the bugs in the middle of the night, digging through the boxes, pushing around the dirt, sorting through the papers. I'm still looking for the words. Take me down, take me in, turn me around, bring me home again. I've been waiting to see if I'll ever return